So let's talk a little bit about how the storage solution works. Um, the various different modes of operation,
Yeah,
I guess.
absolutely.
Yeah. Maybe you
Yeah.
can clarify. I know these terms like in for backup mode and self-consumption mode, time of use. Maybe you can explain to us, you know, which is
Yeah.
which and
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
So in our app, we have three primary ways of primary modes of operation. And to list them all, they are backup mode, self-consumption mode, and advanced mode. So what and they all basically go into like what's the priority of the customer, and what do they want to get out of their system. And also
Hmm.
really depends on the utility that they're at and which sort of program makes the most sense for them.
Yeah.
So first, let's start with backup. Backup is very easy. The number one priority of backup mode is I want to keep my battery as full as possible so that when I lose power, I will have maximum capacity so I can last as much as I can off of my battery. So that's backup number one. And typically you won't really see the battery be used. It won't be cycled that much over time.
Yeah.
The second option is self-consumption mode. And what self-consumption mode says is, all right, I don't want to touch the grid as much as I can.
Yeah.
I just want to use solar and my batteries as much as possible. And only if I have to, then I will use the grid. And
Yeah.
usually when you have to use a grid, it's usually when your battery has got is at a certain low percentage of state of charge, then it will start taking charge from the grid instead.
Yeah.
So once again, to summarize the first two, backup mode means don't use my battery as much as I can.
Yeah.
Self-consumption mode means don't use the grid as much as I can.
Right.
All right. So now this is the one where it's most interesting is called advanced mode. I've seen a lot of different names for it. I've seen peak valley mode. I personally like to use the word phrase time of use mode because I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more clear on what it is because it's
Yeah.
for time time of uses, right?
For those of
Um,
us in California with the new rates, now we're all very familiar with time of use
yeah.
because the rates can range, they can be 4 or 5 times more expensive at various times of the day versus others. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, exactly. So that's where this mode is going to be especially useful.
yeah,
So what you can do is you can set hours in your system on when is the grid expensive and when the grid is cheap. So peak or off-peak hours.
yeah,
So when the grid is expensive, you're going to not want to use the grid as much as possible, and you're going to use solar or batteries to power your system as much as you can.
right.
And then when you move into um, on off peak hours where the grid is cheap, then this is the time for you to take energy from the grid, charge your batteries, and begin to fill up your system and prepare for the peak hours where things are more expensive. So this is really very really exciting to see when you're in the app when you're looking at line graphs. I'm As an engineer, I really enjoy looking at data. So it's very stark in when you can see the batteries are being discharged, and you're not importing anything.
Yeah.
And then during the off peak hours, then you suddenly see the battery starting to charge and you're starting to import power, because that's the time when energy is cheap.
And you
Um,
can charge the APStorage battery or other batteries that connect to the PCS, the LS 5K, either directly from the grid or from the PV system, both, right?
so it's possible to do both, but it's going to prioritize solar, because
Sure,
you
it's
obviously
cheaper.
want to charge you want
It
to it's
is
your
cheaper.
energy, so you want to take solar
It,
instead of the grid.
yeah, and
Yeah, and it's done.
it definitely is cheaper. I mean, I guess that there could be some cases where grid energy could be super cheap. I think in California, even at nighttime, grid is more expensive than amortized regular cost of solar. But there could
Mhm.
be some territories where that could be cheaper, but by default takes from the PV system first and then the grid is what you're saying. Got it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. And then one
Right.
other thing I also want to mention as well is all three of these modes, they're actually settable by the end user. So you can do really interesting things like if you're primarily using it for cost savings, then most likely you're going to be using self-consumption mode or time of use mode. But say, for example, you have concerns that there's going to be a grid outage sometime soon, and you want to take measures to charge up your battery in precaution of these events. So what you can do is you can take your app and then go into settings and then change your mode to backup mode. That way, you'll be prepared. Your battery system will be prepared when you have a grid outage.
Yeah.